Pak Faisal Riza, Vice Minister of Industry, Bapak Andi Rizaldi, Head of Agency for Industrial Standardization and Service Policy, Directors, Generals, distinguished guests. We are soon closing 2024, and as I said before, I'm still writing 2023, so this year went like this. And we are looking at what has happened in 2024, and I think for Indonesia, the most important thing was the presidential elections. So even though it was some time ago, the government took functions about 2 months ago, and I really want to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Indonesia's new government and underline how impressive it is for us to see how clearly the priorities have been defined and how much the ministry are working very hard on these new priorities. Perhaps there is some pressure there, but it's very good pressure, and I think that all citizens see it. And we as European Union, we fully support the priority and Indonesia's economic growth, as shown by our full support for OECD membership. And this, among these priorities is economic growth through green industry, and obviously this is something we share. We share this vision of economic growth through a more green industry. Our President, Mrs. von der Leyen, has proposed a clean industrial deal as one of our priorities for a new mandate, which coincides also with the mandate here, 2024-2029, and I think it is key for both Indonesia and EU to move forward in this. And if you look at the rest of the world, outside Indonesia and EU, which are the biggest economies in the world? Is China and the US. And if you look at China and the US, these are two champions of green investments. The biggest producer of solar panel, the biggest producer of wind turbines in the world is China. And even though the US now with the new president will backtrack on its green commitments, thanks to the IRA, which is something we don't appreciate in Europe because it has stolen some companies from Europe, but the IRA in the US has led to an explosion of green investment. It has more than doubled over the last 2-3 years in the US. So if the US and China, the two most competitive and largest economies in the world, are investing so much in green transition and in green industry, that means something. That means something. And if I want to go into more details, it is clear that green industrialization has multiple advantages, and I will spell out just 4 very clearly. The first one is that it's much easier to mobilize international finance with green industry rather than fossil fuel. The second is that green industrialization lead to the adoption of new technology, is a technology transfer tool. Third, it uses the resources in a much better way. You know, resources, some resources are finite, like fossil fuels, and some resources are infinite, like the air, the heat from geothermal, the wind. But the best way in the green industrialization is to use all these resources efficiently. And fourth, green industrialization leads to a better image, a better reputation, but above all, better market access. You have access to more markets with a green industry than with a fossil fuel industry. So our regular interaction here as EU delegation with businesses confirmed this in Indonesia. So for example, last month I visited in Simangis the facility of Bayer, a German multinational pharmaceutical company, and they inaugurated a rooftop solar power plant. And this installation means that it generates clean electricity, but it also gives Bayer some predictability on the energy cost. The energy costs now are fixed for the years to come, and it's not going to go up and down like either because of electricity tariffs or fossil fuels variation. So this is very important for an industry. Another example, and I'm glad that we have the Director General of this company, is that PT Gunung Raja Paksi, a major Indonesian steel producer, is interesting in moving to a low carbon steel, because in terms of business strategy, this company has to face a lot of imports of steel from mainly a country I won't name, but which has a lot of capacity. And also international markets and investors in Indonesia demand a clean value chain to align with their commitment. So all these are just two examples, but showing that the measures that the government take are key to support these efforts. So for example, the delivery of new permits for solar power plants is a big tool to attract more foreign direct investment and show that there is demand from business in this sector. To switch to clean energy sources is key for Indonesia long economic growth, as it is key for Europe. In Europe, we don't have the coal reserves that Indonesia has, so it is even more urgent. But even for Indonesia, Indonesia is the 11th reserves in the world of coal, but it is the 4th larger producer and the 2nd exporter. What does it mean? 11, 4, 2. That means that Indonesia is between 10 and 15 years to move to the next thing beyond coal, because the reserves are getting empty very quickly. So therefore, renewable energy in Indonesia will really contribute to resilience in the face of energy price volatility, but also energy security, being self-sufficient thanks to solar, wind. And Indonesia is not only blessed with tangible natural resources, lots of coal, lots of nickel, lots of bauxite, lots and lots, but also sun and wind and geothermal and hydro. You have everything. You have the mountains, the sun, the right place on earth. So the potential is immense. And this is why through our partnership we try to really focus on that. And we have a number of initiatives. Obviously, the most crucial one for EU-Indonesia relation is the CEPA, because this could be a trade platform that accelerates the green transition. And at the recent EU-Indonesia Investment Summit, Minister of Investment, Rosan Ruslani, showed the importance of obviously downstreaming production expansion, but also the urgency of finalizing CEPA in order to unlock Indonesia's potential. And in this regard, we have set up now, or we are in the process of setting up an investment desk at BKPM, so that there will be an additional tool to bring investment in green technology to Indonesia. We're also looking at sharing experiences. So for example, we invited a Minister of Industry officials, also with the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprise, to come to Europe, where they toured Brussels, but also Germany, to see, to share experience about energy transition and identify new areas of cooperation. In the areas of new cooperation, there's one fundamental one. It's carbon markets. Carbon markets is key for both Indonesia and EU. So here, thanks to Thibaut, our head of cooperation, we're going to bring you not only once, but twice people to Indonesia in January and February to discuss carbon markets. So first the technical experts, which will explain how technically it works in Europe, and then our senior official, very senior, or director for external relations in the climate action, who will have more political discussions. And we also regularly offer webinars and platforms of explanation on the CBAM, the Carbon Adjustment Border Mechanism, so that the Indonesian company can have better market access to Europe if they are using renewable energy. So these are some initiatives that we have taken, but the latest one is obviously the one that we are here today for, and it is GISCO, the Green Industry Service Company. So in the EU, we have allocated resources through our cooperation facility, the EU-Indonesia Cooperation Facility, to support it. And I'd really want to congratulate the Ministry of Industry for the preparatory steps and for the clear delineation of priorities. So through our support to GISCO, we want this to act as a hub that has technical expertise and act as a provider of green technologies. So I'm very honored and very proud to be here to support this initiative. The EU will support this initiative financially, But more than that, it will use it to mobilize investments with our Team Europe partners, calling on to the member states and also to the European Investment Bank. What the EU wants is to provide inputs to make GISCO an initiative that works for Indonesia and for all Indonesians. Terima kasih.